Good morning and welcome to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Pauleus, where we believe anything is worth building if it is something good, and we know that all good things take time to build. And you can build a life worth living brick by brick if you put in consistency, if you have some conviction, and you have purpose. This morning, I want to go on to talk again about Charlie Kirk, a man who spent his life influencing and calling people to reason, influencing youth and many others, and even in his death, he has influenced a nation, influenced nations for good. I want to highlight a few things I've come to learn about his life. I want to talk about him on the classics, conviction, and calling. During Charlie Kirk's memorial service, there were several people who shared about his life and communicated different various things that were astounding and challenging, great, and very, very, very influential. And one of those people that spoke was Dr. Larry Arnn. He's the president of Hillsdale College, and he mentioned running into Charlie when Charlie was younger. As I understand it, Charlie did not go to college. Right after high school, he ended up founding Turning Point USA. And he was already getting some traction at this point when he met the college president. And in their conversations, the college president told him to read the classics, stay up all night, study, learn, and you'll you'll find that in the classics, in the Bible, there's a ladder that reaches all the way up to God. There's a light that points people to God. And so Charlie did that. And the president shared that there are probably about 5 people who he's kept his eye on that have been phenomenal young individuals who he knows are giants of their generation. And Charlie Kirk was the only person on his list that did not go to his college. And Charlie, through his influence, or from his influence of others, understood the value of reading old books. Good old books. We are uniquely positioned, every generation is uniquely positioned to be susceptible to the errors of their generation. We look back and we think of slavery and how so many justified it. So many, in fact, used the Bible to justify it. They were in a culture, in a context, that was a sin, that was the error, that was the line of thinking that was prominent, and they were susceptible to it. But if they read old books, if they went back to classics, they would find that there's a thread of Christians, of others who detested slavery. You see, what happens is, or I should say this, C.S. Lewis said this, we have to protect ourselves from chronological snobbery, meaning we're in our timeline and we think to ourselves, we know it all. And isn't that the case here in America? Isn't that the case in 2025? We think we know better than those who came before us. Such hubris. We think we are more educated because we have breakthrough science and technology and this and that and that and this. And then you start digging and you realize that these ancient people had a form of math that is what we have today, and we thought we just discovered that. These people were doing things this way. I mean, think about it. Here's something that'd blow your mind. We're digging up artifacts. We're digging up fossils, human remains of those thousands of years ago, and we have proof that all of their teeth are intact. Right? You get a full skeleton and wow, that's a big mouth. That is a lot of teeth. But in our day and age, people are losing their teeth in their 60s, in their 70s. You see what I mean? Those people knew something back then that worked diet-wise, so much so they were buried into the ground through the chain of events, and they ended up, we're finding their teeth, we're finding their skeleton. And I know you can pick this apart, whatever the case is, but the point is, those back in the day are not as dumb as we think they are. In fact, Charlie dug into the Declaration of Independence and those papers our founding fathers wrote. And Charlie is right. They were brilliant to construct a document, a form of government with checks and balances. It is a miracle, 200, almost 250 years later, we still have this type of republic, this type of government. It's remarkable. The checks and balances in place that have prevented a dictator from rising up. You know what? Our founding fathers, they read old books. See, if you want to start thinking differently, you have to read differently. Shallow input produces shallow thinking. And so many people are scrolling on TikTok and Instagram, and I scroll on Instagram too. I am on X. But you gotta get into a space where you can read deeply. Because if you don't, you'll have a shallow life. You just will. Why? Because you've not been confronted with ideas that are not your own. You're not listening to someone who has thought profoundly and deeply on a topic and has shared it with you through the form of writing. You've not dealt with other people in other times, other generations, other cultures that have navigated through difficulty. Things that we think are okay, they were fighting against. Things they thought were okay, we're fighting against. We need to dialogue more with dead people. Some of my favorite heroes have gone before me. They're no longer alive. I've never even met them face to face, but I have their writings and they've challenged and they've shaped me. The classics will lead you to thinking deeply. And to live a life worth living, You need to think deeply. The other thing I am amazed by with Charlie's life is how he believes so much in self-education. He didn't take the traditional route after high school. I mentioned that before. He learned himself. He read classics, he read old books, he dove into the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and he did, as the Hillsdale president mentioned, Charlie did several of their courses online that he could. Got certificates. He modeled what self-education looked like. Reading deeply, seeking mentors, engaging in debate. And I'm going to stop right there and abbreviate on that. People are afraid of debating nowadays. If you want to see the errors of your thinking, if you want to see the places where your logic doesn't add up, it doesn't compute, debate somebody on it. I have family, we love to debate. And they're always getting on me and I'm getting on them. We give pushback. At the end of the day, we love each other, we laugh about it. But I leave thinking, ooh, yeah, actually I didn't think about that angle. I didn't think about that point. Yeah, the way they said that, I didn't and it causes me to go back and do my research and come back with a stronger point. Or I say to myself, ooh, yeah, that argument doesn't really hold up, does it? Maybe I should rethink it and make a different conclusion. People are afraid of debating now. As if their ideas could not be wrong. We're humans. We're changing. We're evolving. We're growing, hopefully, with new knowledge and new encounters. Why wouldn't you want to know if your line of thinking doesn't hold up weight in the public square? Debate. The other thing is, Charlie was a man who took action. He was learning by doing. You see, education doesn't stop when school stops. And that's one of the things the public school has adversely communicated. Okay, we're on summer break. We're on winter break. We're on spring break. Okay, you've graduated from high school. As if you don't need to learn after those 8 hours at public school. You're in winter break, so you don't got to have your thinking cap on. No, education doesn't stop when school ends. I've told myself, you go on my Goodreads, I've told myself I'm a lifelong learner. When you have that mind frame, when you've set yourself up like that, it allows you to be in any situation learning. I'm in the real estate space. I went to a real estate networking event last week, and this guy talked about the rat race. He has 50 rental properties. 50. He brought most of them from 2019 to 2025. He's gotten to that freedom he's wanted. Financial independence, and now time independence and all of it, the things we long for, right? And while I was there, he was talking about Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and different aspects of those things. And most of the stuff I knew because I devour so much content. I am always learning in my space because there's always something new, a different angle, a different way to communicate things, a different way to negotiate, things to look for that actually moves the needle in your direction, things that don't move the needle in your direction but helps the homeowner when they're selling a property. I'm always looking to learn, to get better at the craft and to get better in the space that I'm in. And while I was there, he was talking about using local banks, and it didn't cross my mind because I'm using hard money. I don't need a local bank. I got hard money. But he started to break down the math. He said hard money charges you about 4 points, and They charge you 12% interest rates. These local banks, they might charge you 2 points and give you 8% interest rates. He said in his about 7 years or 5 years of real estate, he's never paid 12% in interest. It's like, what? You got 50 properties? Wow. Okay, I need to rethink my strategy to get to 30 rentals before 30 because, yeah, I was going to use hard money all the way. Always learning. And you learn especially when you're doing because you're getting immediate feedback. Jim Rohn said this: formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. What do you want? The other thing I wanted to highlight from Charlie's life was how he lived with a purpose. He believed strongly that young people should know their why. Purpose is what transforms labor into legacy. Purpose is what keeps you going when opposition comes. Purpose is what separates drifting through life from building something that matters. Purpose, purpose, purpose. What is your purpose? Is it something you made up yourself? Well, that won't stand, because when the tossing waves and the strong winds come in a storm, you will crumble. But if it's a purpose taken from outside of you, given to you, that makes all the difference. And that's where Charlie's faith comes in. The faith was his foundation, his faith in Jesus Christ. I've gone through the memorial service. I've looked at different things, and I am astounded. Man, this was a man with conviction. 31 years old. Watching him talk with Erica about marriage and how to have a good marriage. And he said, it struck me. I sent it to my wife. He said, fellas, you don't spend a dime on yourself, not on video games, not on sport games, until your wife does not have to worry about money. Like, whoa. Man. You take care of her, you lead, and you be and Erica said this: be a leader worth following. Lead in order to serve your wife. You're in this together. Arrows. But where'd they get that from? A Christian worldview, the Bible. You see, if they had a different worldview, many worldviews out there communicate that women are nothing and they're property. Just, you can have as many as you want, actually. Other worldviews communicate that they're. The Christian worldview upholds women and men in high regard, equals actually, and communicates that they ought to love each other, submit to one another, uphold each other, pray for one another. The Bible communicates that. His life has made such a difference. I'm looking at memorial services and tweets and things on Instagram and Facebook, and people are saying, this is my first time in 20 years I'm picking up the Bible to read it. I've been an atheist, but now I'm thinking, is there a God? And I'm first time to church in 20 years, taking my whole family. Wow. Charlie wanted to be remembered for his courage and his faith in Jesus Christ. You see, it doesn't matter what you're building. If you're not building on Christ's solid rock, it doesn't matter. What's going to happen is you're going to build a great life, quotes. You're going to build something amazing, quotes. You're going to make memories. You're going to have money. You're going to have time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, all the freedoms people are desiring. You're going to build it brick by brick. But what happens if you get to the end of your life and you realize you built that great mansion brick by brick, but the foundation was sand? What happens if you get to the end of your life, you've gained a whole world, but you lose your soul? It's not worth it. Charlie's faith gave him a compass. It gave him a calling. It gave him peace. And I want to tell you today, Jesus Christ has come to die for your sins. He rose again from the grave on the third day so that you too would follow him in dying to sin and raising again to life. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if anyone is in Christ Jesus, he is a new creation. She is a new creation. The old has passed away. The new has come. You want to know what life is really worth building? The life built believing in Jesus Christ. At 31, he's lost his life. He was assassinated and murdered brutally in front of millions. And he's gone on. He's left behind a wife, kids. And we think to ourselves, oh, he was 31 and he has so much more life, so much more life, so much more life. And it's true, he did. And he's living that so much more life with Jesus. If you don't know Jim Elliot, look into his life. Look into his impact and influence. But I mention him because he said this. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. I challenge you to think about the life you're building. I challenge you to see if you're thinking deeply in the classics, if you're self-educating, if you have a purpose, and if your faith is built on solid ground.